Ladies and gentlemen, we will continue our discussion about strategic thinking and medical affairs strategies. In the last tutorial, we discussed the approach of strategic thinking as a cognitive process, and we defined its details as well as 7 key elements of strategic thinking. Today, we will get into more serious discussion about strategic thinking and strategies in general. And here in this tutorial, we will talk about two main subjects: the key approaches of strategic thinking and also the frameworks, the most common frameworks of strategic thinking. So stay tuned. Strategic thinking is more than just day-to-day planning. Let's agree on this. It's about envisioning the future and then considering various scenarios to make informed decisions that are aligned with our long term goals. In medical affairs, this is specifically very important for us because our industry is constantly evolving with new regulations, technologies, and market dynamics. So, how can we effectively put strategies in this environment? Let's first understand that strategic thinking has 4 key approaches and 4 frameworks. Let's start with the 4 key approaches of strategic thinking. First up, we have the analytical approach. And this approach is all about data driven strategies and data driven strategic decisions. And we will dedicate the next tutorial to discuss the strategic decision making. However, for now, let's know that in medical affairs, the analytical approach involves breaking down complex problems into smaller, manageable parts and using data to drive our decisions. For example, when deciding which new drug to develop, the pharmaceutical organizations might analyze market data, unmet patient needs, regulatory trends, and also financial projections because they can impact the decision of developing a new molecule or not. And this approach relies heavily on metrics, models, and logical reasoning as well in order to forecast outcomes and make the best possible decision. So, this is the analytical approach in strategic thinking. Next is the systemic approach of strategic thinking. And this approach focuses on understanding how different parts of any system or ecosystem interact and influence one another. In medical affairs, this means for us looking at the bigger picture. When introducing or launching a new medication or therapy, for example, it's very important to consider how changes in one area can impact this launch, like how changes in one policy in a regulatory system should impact other areas like supply chain, pricing strategies, or even patient access. So, looking to the bigger picture is the systemic approach of strategic thinking. Then we have the visionary approach. This approach is all about setting bold, long term goals and pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Visionary leaders in medical are often at the forefront of innovation, thinking outside the box to pioneer new treatment protocols, explore untapped therapeutic areas, or even enhance their operations. For example, a pharmaceutical organization may aim to disrupt the industry by developing a groundbreaking medication that redefines standards of care in certain disease. This visionary approach requires a willingness to take risks and a deep belief in the long term vision of your organization. Without this ability or willingness to take the risk and develop the long term vision, it will be very difficult to contribute to the success of this goal. So, this was the visionary approach when we talk about strategic thinking. Finally, there is the collaborative approach of strategic thinking, and this approach emphasizes teamwork and the involvement of multiple stakeholders in the strategic planning process. In medical affairs, collaboration is key success factor, especially when strategies require buy-in from various parties like regulatory bodies, healthcare providers, and patient advocacy groups. So, when we talk about collaboration in medical affairs, these are the external stakeholders that we need to collaborate with, but there are a lot of internal stakeholders as well that we need to develop a very comprehensive collaborative strategy to ensure that everyone is aligned and everyone is contributing to the success. A global corporation might use this collaborative approach when entering a new market, involving local partners, government officials, and community leaders in the planning process. This will ensure that the strategy is well rounded, culturally sensitive, and widely supported, leading to a higher chance of success. So, when it comes to this collaborative approach, there is no limit when it comes to the stakeholders you need to collaborate with in order to ensure success. This was the fourth strategic approach, which is the collaborative approach of strategic thinking. And these were the four key approaches of strategic thinking. Now, let's shift the gears and talk about the frameworks. You may have heard about them, about the concepts before, but relatively they are not very common language or common concepts in medical affairs. They should be, but they are not. So let's get started with the key frameworks of strategic thinking. The first framework that we can discuss is the systems thinking. And here, this is a holistic approach based on understanding the interconnectedness of various components in one system. System thinking is a holistic approach that focuses on understanding the interrelationships and interdependencies among various components within a complex system. In the context of medical, systems thinking requires medical affairs teams and colleagues to view their department as a dynamic system within multiple interconnected elements, such as research and development, medical information, regulatory affairs, patient engagements, regulatory compliance, and so by recognizing the interplay of, and even commercial, by the way, and so by recognizing the interplay of these elements, medical affairs can identify and leverage points and design interventions that have a broader impact on the organization and also the patient outcomes because these are our main deliverables and goals. The second framework is the scenario planning, which is preparing for different or alternative future possibilities. And this approach or this framework involves envisioning and planning for multiple alternate future scenarios or options with different uncertainties, maybe. And here, when it comes to medical affairs, we can use this approach to anticipate and prepare for various potential outcomes that may rise in the healthcare landscape or in the disease area landscape. And by considering deficiencies and opportunities in such areas, we can highlight the differences that may help us to develop a specific response to each of these changing circumstances or scenarios. Scenario planning empower medical affairs to be more resilient and responsive in uncertain and volatile environments. And if you remember when we discussed strategic thinking as a cognitive approach, we said that when we put a medical strategy, we need also to be resilient and adaptive to the changing environment. So having the scenario planning framework is very important in certain circumstances when we are required to develop different approaches for different possible outcomes. The third framework is very common, but maybe its name is not that common in medical affairs. It's called the Blue Ocean Strategy. And the Blue Ocean Strategy is creating a new market space and new opportunities. So the blue ocean is a concept that focuses on creating new market space rather than competing in the existing market segment. And in the context of medical affairs, we can think of this as a way to explore innovative approaches or programs and the different new partnerships that can address different medical needs and create new opportunities. By doing so, we can gain competitive advantage by differentiating the medical affairs initiatives across the industry. This approach or framework fosters innovation and allow medical affairs to think outside the box, explore untapped potential in healthcare environment, and explore the unmet patient needs in a different new approach. So this is the blue ocean strategy. And finally, the last framework of strategic thinking that we will discuss today is the design thinking. And this is a human centered approach that emphasizing understanding the needs and preferences and experiences of any end user. So this is the the marketing definition. But of course, for us, it will be the patient needs. So it's again a human centered approach. It's not a computer based approach, it's a human centered approach that emphasizes the needs and the preferences and different experiences of an end user. Here for us is the end user is the patient. And here we can apply this design thinking principles to develop a patient centric program, educational initiatives, and the different patient services by emphasizing or collaborating with different patient groups or patient advocacy associations. And I can recall here a very good example because the omni-channel approach or strategy can fit very well into this definition, the design thinking. Because when we design an omni channel strategy, whether for healthcare professionals or for patients, that's exactly what we do. We understand the needs, preferences, and experiences of our end users, whether they are healthcare professionals or patients. Medical affairs can create solutions that address real world challenges and enhance patient outcomes if they adopt the design thinking, which enables and encourages us to continue receiving feedback from stakeholders in order to even develop better solutions and better approaches. And this will help us to continuously improve and deliver the best medical value to our end customers or end users. Thank you for your attention today. So, strategic thinking is a cognitive process. It has 7 key elements, 4 key approaches, and 4 most common frameworks. I hope you enjoyed the information we shared this tutorial and see you soon.